Welcome to Lurking for Legends, a live video cast where we talk with people from all walks of the publishing industry. I'm Christie Stratus, historical fantasy and historical suspense author, and my awesome co-hosts are epic fantasy author Richard H. Stevens and sci-fi author David M. Kelly. Lurking for Legends is an interactive broadcast, and we encourage viewers to chime in with questions for our guests or comment on anything you might hear in the show. So we are going to just talk a little bit about what is going on with us first, and then we will introduce you to a guest I bet a lot of you will know. So let's start with David tonight. David, what's going on with you this week?
Okay, so I've been doing some more work on Hyperia Jones' book 2. This week I've taken a little bit of a break from actually writing it, and I've actually been working on my Lakundan. I'm inventing a new language for Hyperia.
I was going to pretend I knew what that was. I was just
complete with tentacles. Yeah, so I've been working on that for a few days, and it's proving to be quite challenging, but hopefully it should be fun in the end. You know, it's all silly fun.
Are you like actually coming up with rules to the language?
Yes, I actually use there's an application online called what is it called? I could tell you in a second. It's called vulgalang.com, which sounds as though it sounds more vulgar than it is. It's just vulgar language, as in creating a language, and that will generate languages for you. But you can then customize the language and kind of like add in your own extras and your own rules and all this kind of stuff. And it gets really, really detailed. It's crazy how detailed this gets, and so I'm kind of like struggling to try and understand all of these different elements to this sort of thing. I've used it before, but never to quite this level of detail. So it's proven quite challenging, but quite fun too.
Wow, that is really cool. Boy, good luck with that. I'm sure if anybody can make that work, I'm sure it's you. That's really cool. How about you, Richard?
Yeah, no, I've still been taking some time off. I'm trying to tie up a lot of loose ends around the other bits of publishing that we have to look after independent authors. There's always something in the background that we need to redo. Every time I write a new book, all the back matter changes, and just so many different things that we got to look after. So I've been trying to take time before I dive back into this Highcliffe Guardian series. So that's what I've been doing. But today I am really looking forward to our guest, and I'll let you introduce him in a minute, Christy. But I just want everyone to know before he comes on that there are a lot of helpful people out there. Dave's been very helpful. You've been very helpful, Christy. But I don't think I've ever come across anyone as humble and helpful as our guest who's coming on today, Mark Leslie. He is such a down-to-earth person, and you can ask him any question you want, and he'll just gladly answer with a smile on his face. You know, he's not put out whatsoever. You can ask whatever you want, and if you give him an IPA beer, he's your friend for life. So I'm looking forward to talking to Mark today. So, I mean, there's really nothing going on with me right now, Christy. So what's up with you?
Well, for me, as always, I have a new episode of Corrupted Magic up this week. It's episode 13, and it's called The Unthinkable. And this one is a big one. This is the moment we've been waiting for a little while now. So I'm super excited about it. I hope everyone enjoys it. It's very intense. So really excited about that. I did take a little bit of a break writing the remaining, more episodes of Corrupted Magic, just because I had written myself into a place I just didn't like at all what I had written. So I did take that break and look back at what I was doing, and I will be catching back up again soon. But, I'm like a few episodes ahead, so there won't be any delay on your part. And another thing I'm doing this month is that I have... If you go to my website, which I'm going to post here, if you go to my website this month and you buy a paperback book, which is either Anatomy of a Darkened Heart or Brotherhood of Secrets, you will get a free Halloween gift. So it can be anywhere between today and the end of October. And you can actually pick on my website what you want. and I'll send that to you. So, you know, just something fun, a little treat for you this month, especially since my books really go well with this month. They're, you know, psychological suspense, historical suspense. The first one's been called psychological horror. So, you know, kind of the right read for this month. So just check out my website and you can get that for free. So, okay, without further ado, Richard did an amazing introduction.
Before you bring Mark on, I understand his favorite beers are Coors and Budweiser. So,
oh yeah, I've definitely heard that too. Yeah, that's everyone should buy him that. Absolutely. So today we are introducing Mark Leslie, and Mark is, I'm sure so many of you know, super talented, of course, Canadian author of nonfiction, urban fantasy, thriller, and beyond. I can't even list it all. So welcome, Mark. We're so happy to have you.
Hey,
Welcome,
great. Great to
Mark.
be here. I'm so excited I get to hang out with you guys.
Yeah, we're really excited about it too. So I don't think you really need that much of an introduction, but just in case somebody happens to tune in who doesn't know you too well, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm an author and a book nerd. So sum me up in 3 words, but I've been in the book industry since 1992. That was the year I sold my very first short story and made $5 whole for that short story. I've got about 30 different books out. I've got books for writers written under this long, complicated name, Mark Leslie Lefebvre. And that's only because I've worked in the book industry as Mark Lefebvre, and I was known in that part of the industry. But I chose to write under my middle name, Mark Leslie, because most people could spell and pronounce it. And most of my stuff is speculative fiction in nature. So urban fantasy, horror, true ghost stories, paranormal, stuff like that, and some thrillers. And I've just been around the block a few times. I've also worked in the industry for a long time. I've been a bookseller. 92 is when I started in the book industry. And I worked for Kobo for 6 years. I helped create their self-publishing platform, Kobo Writing Life.
Cool.
And then I tried to go full-time. I was making enough money to go full-time, but I couldn't do it because when I had too much time to write, I watched cat videos online instead of doing my work. So I didn't make it a full year when I was hanging out with the folks from Draft to Digital at a writers conference in Florida, and took on a part-time role with them, 20 hours a week. And that was perfect for me because Kobo, I was working 60 plus hours a week, and I wasn't able to get writing done as much as I wanted to. I still made it happen, but yeah, those cat videos. But one of the things that was really cool was the 20 hours a week was perfect for me because it took up enough of my calendar that I took the rest of my week seriously. And I've actually been more productive since 2018 to now than I had probably in the previous 20 odd years of writing.
Wow, so we could learn some time management from you just from your introduction. That's fantastic. I love it.
The trick is not too much free time.
You know what? It's so funny that you should say that because just that last week I had more free time and I didn't write much at all.
Yeah.
No, it was the same kind of thing. Yeah, JD, no, all about being stretched thin. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
So you say you started in the book business in 1992.
Yeah.
That's like before the rest of us were born.
Pretty much, yeah. Yes, exactly, yeah. No, I mean, I graduated from university that year with a degree in English language and literature, so what could I do? I was working part-time as a security guard, part-time at a theater, doing backstage stuff, and then I also got a part-time job at a bookstore, and that's when it happened to me. It was part-time seasonal help at a Kohl's in Ottawa. I was part-time seasonal help. It was Kohl's number 23, a store on Spark Street. Beautiful, giant store. And I just got bit by the book bug. And I thought, hey, I mean, I don't get paid as a writer anyway. I may as well not get paid well as a bookseller. And I loved working in the book industry, learning so much about books, the good, the bad, the ugly, and then just continuing to work in the industry. And I worked in bookstores up till 1999. I moved to Chapters Online. And then I moved back to a bookstore, an academic bookstore, McMaster University. A few years later, when my son was born, and I was tired of commuting into Toronto, I wanted to be close to home, so McMaster University was a 10-minute drive. And I'd like to say I've worked in every kind of bookstore, mall, chain, independent, academic, big box, online, ebook. The only two I haven't worked for are a used bookstore or a Christian bookstore. So if anyone's hiring, for either one of those, a part-time position. I'd love to get, just say I could work at every single kind of bookstore. I'll go for it.
That's awesome. So I know that just recently you just finished publishing Canadian Mounted, which is quite a very interesting book. It's I love the cover and I love the premise of it. And if people have watched the movie many, many times, hopefully they'll see if you show the cover again, you had it up in front of your face when we first came on there. If you don't mind showing us the cover again. If you can picture, was it John Candy actually reading that, or was that
John Candy?
Yeah, so John Candy. So you picture Mark as John Candy, and I know Mark, and he's a joker like John Candy sometimes too. So that book actually looks very good in front of you.
I know you, don't I?
What's the story behind that book?
So in the movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which is celebrating its 35th anniversary come November 25th, 2022. It came out on November 25th, which is American Thanksgiving, 1987. It's a classic John Hughes movie starring John Candy and Steve Martin. Steve Martin plays an uptight executive, for people who haven't seen it. And if you haven't, shame on you. Really, treat yourself. Go watch the movie. Steve Martin's an uptight executive trying to get home for Thanksgiving. He's commuting into New York to do stuff with an ad agency, and he just wants to get home for a nice family dinner with his family. He bumps into John Candy, who's a blabbermouth, loudmouth, traveling salesman with a heart of gold. And it's this odd couple of the two of them stuck together as their plane gets rerouted from New York to Chicago. Nice quick commute. He ends up going to Wichita because of a snowstorm. Stuff gets canceled. They end up taking trains, buses, taxis, rental cars, all kinds of planes, trains, and automobiles. And it's a really amazing movie. And it was John Hughes's first venture into adult film, actually. And so what this is there's a scene when Del Griffith, played by John Candy, meets Steve Martin's character, Neil Page, for the very first time at LaGuardia Airport in New York. And John Candy's already accidentally taken Steve Martin's cab, and Steve Martin's already tripped over this trunk that John Candy has. So they've already kind of encountered each other, but they haven't met officially. So John Candy's sitting there reading this book, and it was a sort of an inside joke because John Candy is a Canadian actor. So the Canadian Mounted in the script was described as, Del Griffith is reading a pornographic novel. And so obviously this book was a book. I thought it was a prop book initially. And then I saw in the movie Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds had a mock-up of this book made, and Wade Wilson is reading it. And there's a scene where he's holding it, saying, "I'll be in the bathroom," jokingly, as the lowbrow humor of Deadpool. And Ryan Reynolds, Canadian actor, was a huge fan of John Hughes, and he admitted, it was actually in a May 2022 interview with David Letterman, he said, "I had the prop book made to match the one John Candy was holding." Now, I thought they were prop books, and I wanted to release this. So I had this book up for pre-order. And then I learned, somebody contacted me on my web forum, somebody who had a John Hughes podcast and was very knowledgeable in research, said, no, it was a real book published by Beeline, which did a lot of adult erotic novels, or as what we called them in the book industry back in those days, we called them one-handers. Just the nickname that you had for these. And it was, the publisher went out of business. This may have been its last book published. So, and it was never filed for copyright. So I managed to get a hold of a scan of the original model, mocked up the cover to kind of mock up the exactly what it looked like. The only difference, obviously the text and everything is different except for the title. The only difference is that book didn't have a barcode, and I changed it from Northern Nymph to Northern Tribute, and I talked about how it was inspired. So what this is a trivia guide to Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and it's just basically trivia and then bloopers and mistakes in the film. I also do a deep analysis of 2 of the scripts I got my hands on. John Hughes had 25 versions of scripts because he just kept rewriting. And he was even rewriting because even the final shooting script does not match what's in the film because he would let the actors ad lib. And so it was kind of like the scene, "Those Aren't Pillows," the classic scene. I mean, it's not written that way exactly. It's a completely different one. They don't even say "those aren't pillows." He just says, "Where's your other hand?" And then their eyes go wide and stuff like that. And then they jump out of bed. And then somewhere in the ad-libbing, it was between two pillows, and that sort of came out of it. So I'm a huge fan of the movie. I've seen it probably 50 times, and I wanted to do this book for years and years and years, and so finally it came out, and I have to stop working on it. That was kind of how it came. It's like, oh no, publication date's coming up. Get this out the door.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah, it really is. Did it take you? So did it take a while to write, like with all that research and your passion and everything?
Yeah. So I was originally thinking, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I released a book called The Canadian Mounted? And I've edited anthologies, and my first idea was, I'll do an anthology. I'll ask writers to write a short story, submit to me, but call the story The Canadian Mounted, but it cannot be erotica. It could be any other genre, but it couldn't be erotica. And I was going to collect the stories together and go, we're going to have a book called The Canadian Mounted, and it's all these different stories. And then in the last chapter, I was going to do trivia. So about 2 years ago, I started kind of working on this. And as I was writing the trivia, it wasn't just a chapter. It was like, well, that chapter is going to be really long, and then I'm going to have to. So I was reading out, like going, well, I was originally going to take 12 stories, and now I can only take 10 stories, and now I can and I realized there's no point doing that, because editing an anthology is a lot of work, all the moving parts and stuff like that. And then I realized I had enough material to do a full anthology. And then even when I was contacted by the person who wants to remain anonymous, but really researched this well, shared a whole bunch of details with me, including that it was a real book. And that sort of changed everything for me, going, oh my God, it could be a real book again. It could be a real boy. So it was really, it's just been a passion project for me. And then when I looked at it, I think it was last year, because I was working on it. And then last year, sometime in November, I went, how many years has it been since the movie came out? And I went, oh my God, 2022 is the 35th anniversary. Okay, there's my cue. And I really started to go to town on it last November. I had notes and pages and a PDF of one of the manuscripts. I got a hold of a different PDF of a different manuscript. But yeah, it's just been so much fun. I actually sat down to watch it again after the book came out with my son on Canadian Thanksgiving, and actually just enjoyed the movie. And I did my very, very best, because we've watched the movie probably a dozen times together. I did my very, very best not to speak up in every scene and go, did you know that Kevin Bacon was in New York shooting She's Having a Baby? And did you know that, like, all this trivia is like, Dad, shut up. I just want to enjoy the movie.
You have to have like 2 viewings of it. One where you enjoyed the movie and one where you say, okay, now listen. I have to tell you.
This is Mark's commentary version.
Yeah. That's perfect.
You can almost do a live theater of that.
That would be kind of fun, like the what was the science fiction classics where they had people sitting in the theater and they're just yelling stuff out, like Rocky Horror Picture Show kind of.
That'd be perfect.
Yeah,
so
that was
one of your. Mm-hmm. That's just one of your releases. Of course, you're publishing all the time, and we have another release to talk about, and that's Lover's Moon. So tell us a little bit about that one too.
Yeah, and I brought props too, right? So Lover's Moon, I have an urban fantasy series. Canadian Werewolf in New York was the first book in the series. Also has other books in the series are Fear and Longing in Los Angeles and Fright Night's Big City. Because I wanted to do a humorous look at what it might be like to be a werewolf living in a big city. How would you deal with the side effects and stuff like that? So he's sort of a bit of a superhero. He has superpowers as a human. And he's sort of a good guy. He just turns into a wolf, not an actual werewolf. He turns into a wolf, so a full-sized wolf. And there was a backstory related to 2 of my main characters that I set up in the very first book. And I had readers write in and say, Michael and Gail used to be a couple. Now they're really good friends. Michael's still in love with her, but they broke up and she dumped him. What's the story? How did they meet? How did they fall in love? And so I thought, I'll write a short story to, for my readers as a special treat for them. And I went and bought the book Romancing the Beat by Gwen Hades. I really, really highly recommend that book. Phenomenal book. I sort of figured out what to do. I went and I filled out the form and the chart and like the outline and stuff like that. And I started to write it. And I wrote the first chapter from Michael's point of view. And then I went to Gail's point of view. And I started to write her point of view. And I went, oh my God, I can't write her properly because I worshipped her just like Michael did, because it's first person, past tense, first person from Michael's perspective. All the stories are told from that. So suddenly trying to get into Gail's head, I couldn't do it. I had this block. So Julie Strauss is a good friend of mine, and she's a brilliant women's fiction, humorous romance author. Love her stuff. Every single book she's ever written is amazing. We've worked together before. She's helped edit some of my work. She was familiar with the Canadian Werewolf series. And so I said, Julie, what about if you did Gail? So Julie stepped up, and it ended up becoming a full-length book. We had Lover's Moon with Mark Leslie and Julie Strauss. And within the series, it's book 5. The prologue and the epilogue are set in modern time, modern day, where it actually advances the story. And for people who are following the storyline, it's interesting, but very, very short. There's a flashback when they talk about how they first met, and that's the whole story. So within that, it's actually a complete romance with all the tropes. You know, the tri-fail and all the stuff that happens in the relationship, and the meet cute. And we call the meet cute the MEAT-cute because, you know, he's a wolf. I think the log line is which Julie came up with, which is brilliant. He's an alpha wolf and a beta boyfriend. She's dated every monster in New York City. It's time for their meet cute, and that's because she's always had really bad choice in men. But now she's met this humble, you know, beta Canadian man. So it's been a lot of fun to do that book with Julie, and we had so much fun that we're co-writing the next book in the series, which is going back to urban fantasy and adventure, but it needs to be told from Michael's point of view and Gail's point of view, and they need to be separate. So I can't write a first-person story about what happens to someone else. Let's continue Gail's first-person story in this modern tale. So that's going to be a fun one.
So how do you guys go about writing that then? Do you write a chapter and then she writes her chapter and then you read that and then you write your chapter? Or
yeah, that's how we did it. So yeah, March of 2022. So we started talking about this probably towards the end of the previous year. And then we kind of outlined it. I kind of showed her what I had for my rough outline, and then she went back in and fixed it and made it way better because she's got way more experience. And also she outlines and I never outline. So I just kind of go, I think I know where it's going. Let's just see what happens, right? See what the characters do.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I'm a discovery writer. But what we did is we outlined what was going to happen, and it was alternating chapters: Michael, Gail, Michael, or Gail, Michael, Gail, Michael, Gail, Michael, etc. And so Julie sent me a month and basically said, "Okay, day 1, I write the chapter, I send it to you, you read it, you send the next chapter to me the next day," and we just went back and forth like that. I think we had like a day off here and a day off there, spaced throughout the month. And we turned it in. It was about 65,000 words by the time we were finished. Maybe a little bit more, and then I went to an editor and stuff like that. But we spent the entire month of March doing it. And what I loved about it was Julie was in Pacific time zone in California, and I'm here in Eastern in Ontario. And my day started a lot earlier than hers. So there was a thing where she would send me the story, and then I would have a chance to read it at night, go to bed, think about, and then the next morning sit down, reread her chapter, and then write my next chapter. Like, we knew what was going to happen, but I didn't know the specifics of what had just happened because it was very sequential. And that was so fun because every single time, and Julie and I, we had to give up doing this because every time I'd send her a chapter, I go, it sucks and it's horrible. I'm so sorry. I'll rewrite it, but here's what I got. And then she would read it and love it. And she'd do the same thing going, oh, this is a horrible chapter. And I would go, Julie, this is amazing. I love it. And so what was the when you believe that you're not that good at it, the imposter syndrome was really, really strong in both of us throughout the whole process. And then we finally said, enough. Just turn in your chapter. No need to apologize saying that it's horrible. What a great experience, though.
So, Mark, sorry,
go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to say, you mentioned that you've been involved with Kobo, and now you work closely with Drafted Digital. And I was just wondering, could you maybe talk about some of the pros and cons of going direct to companies like Kobo and
Sure.
Apple and so on, versus using draft to digital?
Yeah, of course. I have to confess that even when I worked at Kobo, I was using Draft to Digital to make my EPUBs because their EPUB conversion tool, which is free and anyone can use, you can just go and make an EPUB and just take it away and do whatever you want with it. Sell it direct, load it to another platform. So I was still going to D2D to make all my EPUBs. I was publishing direct to Kobo because I created the platform. I'm kind of proud of it. I was publishing direct to Kindle, Amazon, world's biggest bookstore, and then I'd just been using Draft to Digital to get into all the other places. At the time, Nook didn't really allow Canadians to publish direct. So, and Apple, oh God, even on a good day, is not easy to use, even with a Mac. So, I'd always decided to use. Get into a whole bunch of platforms with a push of a button, and I go direct where I think I can get some benefits. So the benefit of going direct is you have direct control of the platform. You may get more promotional opportunities when you're direct because Kobo, for example, very specifically, and even Nook in a lot of cases, favor direct sales, people who are publishing direct, and give more promotion opportunities to those than those who come in from a distributor. The other benefit is you make a full 70% when you're publishing direct. If you go through a distributor, Draft Digital doesn't charge anything up front. They make their money on the sales, and they basically keep 10% of that margin. So you're only making 60%. So I think the thing that I don't think there's one right way to do it, and I do a combination of everything. But I think what happens is some people will weigh the benefit of having to create 6 or 7 different accounts as opposed to going, oh my God, when I do it, like Richard was talking earlier about the back matter. Well, that's one of the nice things. Draft to Digital will automate that for you if you use the automated back matter using universal book links. So every time you publish a new book, it'll automatically update the back matter in all your other books and send that off. So that's one of the benefits of automated back matter. But then it's the catch-22. What do you you have more time? Do you have to hire an assistant to do that? Draft to Digital does have, and so does Apple, and so does Nook. But Kobo and Amazon don't have this. But all those other platforms, and I believe Google Play has it too, where you can assign an assistant who can go in and access and update your metadata for you and make price changes, but won't have access to your banking information. So you don't have to give them your login if you have a virtual assistant. One of the reasons I do publish, so for example, I would normally go direct to Amazon and Kobo and etc. But because Julie and I were doing payment splitting, so with Draft to Digital for the ebook and the print book, we have somewhat of a payment split. And so what happens is they pay her directly, they pay me directly. And for this one, I didn't go direct because I don't want to have to deal with getting my 18 cents from Amazon Mexico and then doing the math, and then it has to translate from American to Canadian where I lose money. Bank of Canada always takes some. And then I got to translate it back to American, and I lose some of the exchange to go pay. So it's so much easier to get the pays directly, and Draft to Digital sends a tax form to me and one to Julie, and I don't have to go, I took in X amount of money and then I gave half of it away. My tax trail is a lot cleaner when I don't have to touch that money. Otherwise, I have to create an invoice and register all that, and she's got to claim it as income from me. And I'm not authorized to give tax forms out. I'm sorry, I'm a sole proprietorship. and who wants to monkey with that? Anyway, so those are some of the pros and cons, but I don't think there's any one way of doing it. The way that's doing it, I always say, is what feels right for you and your comfort level and the time and what your priorities are.
No, that's great. Yeah. So one thing I want to touch on is if anyone has ever met Mark outside, well, even if you met him at your house, Mark doesn't go really anywhere without this friend of his that I always feel sorry for. It doesn't seem like he eats very much. Barnaby Bones. I thought we'd be seeing him today. I don't actually see him in the background.
You know what? My apologies. I should have. Normally, I'd hang him.
Is he out in the front lawn?
Yeah, he is. No, he's in my car outside.
Oh,
Yeah, we have a whole bunch of other skeletons on the front yard, which are the old versions of Barnaby, because they wear out and their spines break and stuff, and so I have to buy new ones.
I love the stories about the old Barnabys, but anyone who knows Mark knows Barnaby Bones. Sorry, no, I have put Jones on my thing here. Barnaby Bones, and he travels with Mark when he does any of these book signing events. And whenever I see, like, Mark is not a small guy. Like, Mark is tall. And when he has a 10 by 10 booth at these book signing events, he's got like at least 33 books out, and he's got 7 more that he's edited. Like, he is behind a wall of books. When I look over at his tent, I can just see the top of Mark's head, and he's kind of peeking out from around his books. And then I can see Barnaby, and Barnaby's more front and center for people to bump into. And I was just thinking, and it's funny you said that, is I would love to use Barnaby to sit in my passenger seat and then go drive down all the HOV lanes in Toronto when I go to pick my books up when next time I have an order. So if I can borrow him sometime.
It's not going to work, my friend. I did it once where I pulled him from the back seat into the front seat, put a hoodie on him because I needed to get to work faster and I was late for a meeting. And I needed to get in the HOV lanes just to pass a bunch of slow people. But I was so terrified of getting caught. But no, I wouldn't dare do that. You could get in so much trouble.
That would be funny seeing you.
I have been pulled over at a ride program with Barnaby when I was heading up to Sudbury to launch the book Spooky Sudbury. It was the middle of the night. It was about 1 a.m, and I was going up through Pointe à Barrel, which is north of Perry Sound, or Pointe à Barrel if you want to. And there was a ride program where they were checking for drunk drivers. Come down the highway, and I actually had Barnaby in the passenger seat, with me, and boxes of books in the back. And he pulled me over and he says, where are you going? I said, I'm heading up to Sudbury. He goes, okay, have you been drinking? I'm like, no. And then he goes, how about your buddy? And I kind of looked at him and I thought, okay, do I do this joke? And I said, oh, officer, alcohol goes right through him. and then he got really serious and goes, seriously, what's with the stiff? I'm like, well, this is my friend Barnaby Bones. You see, I'm a horror writer, and I'm going to launch my book of ghost stories about Sudbury. Officer, would you like a signed copy? And I reach into the back. You'll have a story to tell people about this weirdo on the highway.
And so, did you get a? Oh, it was a ride check. It wasn't a ticket that you were getting.
No. It was just a see if you were drinking. Like, I was drinking coffee.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. No, that's a great story. I love the storytelling. Sorry,
how did Barnaby? Sorry,
it's okay. Go ahead, Christie.
I just wanted to know. Yeah, I just wanted to know how Barnaby came to be in the first place.
So when I put my first book came out in 2004, I self-published it back way before all the cool kids were doing it, and I put a collection of short stories together that had been previously published, and I called it One Hand Screaming. And when I was doing book events, I used to bring one of my skulls here, York, and it would be like, oh, cool, I'll put York, because One Hand Screaming had it was a close up of my eyeball with a skull in it, and so I was like, oh, I'll have a skull on the table. And I think I might have bought not this version, but an earlier version at Winona Peach Festival. It was a craft thing. It was like a little thing you put tea lights in, and the eyes would glow. And so I had that on my table, and that was kind of a cool thing. And then I just started to collect things, and people would buy me stuff. And then I saw a skeleton, and I thought, oh my God, wouldn't it be so cool to get a full-size skeleton as I'm doing these different book events? And the reason I like it is it's kind of, if people see me sitting there with a skeleton in front of a bookstore or whatever, they either know to avoid eye contact with the crazy tall bald guy because, oh my God, this is scary. Or they see the skeleton and they run up to me going, oh my God, this is so my cup of tea or blood or whatever it is. And so it's kind of a magnet for the right readers and a repellent for the people who don't want to read my kind of stuff. They know what they're in for. It's a trick. I'm going to offer this trick as well. The other trick that you can use, especially if you're in a bookstore, is see with the store, instead of having your books only on your table, see if they can have your books on display a good 10, 15 feet away from you, because people are curious, but they don't want to come up and they don't want to be sold to. They don't want to be pitched to. They want a chance to see if it's their thing. And so when I've done that, you can see them like, oh, there's a guy with a skeleton. What's this all about? But they don't want to come over and talk. They don't want to look because people don't want to be sold to.
Mm.
They go over and they see the books on a display. They pick them up and they're way out of earshot, or I can't reach out to them and try to sell them. And then they can check the book out without any pressure. And then if they like it, usually what happens is they run over and go, is this your book? Can you sign it? And that's a little trick that you can potentially use to help with those books. But anyway, that's what Barney's about. And I would often put a T-shirt on him with one of my book covers, because a lot of people want to take a picture with him. And the other thing about that is it's great because social media, you got your book cover on that. But he's a great icebreaker, because people like Richard would come up and say, hey, can I borrow him for the HOV lanes? Right? And it's like, it's a fun thing, right? It's a fun conversation. Or they go, hey, your buddy looks like he needs to eat. In which case I can joke and say, yeah, if only I could afford to feed him by selling some books. But it's a great icebreaker. It really, really is.
That's great.
No, he's awesome.
And does he talk much?
Barnaby doesn't say much. He just grins. He has his goofy grin. And we have the same hairstyle, too. So I even put a fake little beard on him one time. I should put this little, just so that we kind of looked a little bit more familiar, similar.
Oh boy, that's fantastic. I love it. And that's a really, really good strategy as well that you mentioned. What a great point, people not wanting to be sold to. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, no one wakes up and wants to be sold to, but someone might go, oh my God, that book Christie was talking about sounds so good. I got to go to her website and buy it so I can get the free Halloween treat, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to be sold to, but they want fun things.
Sure. That's right. That's so true. Yeah.
That they may want to buy.
Yeah.
So one of the other things that you do, Mark, is you do consulting sessions with authors.
Yeah.
And I believe it's even possible that you do, is it 20 minutes of time free?
Yep. Yeah.
Which sounds like an amazing amazingly generous thing. So could you maybe talk a little bit about that and kind of like what people should expect and so on?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate that I've worked in the book industry for 30 years, and I have a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience, and a lot of failures too. I've learned a lot from failures, and so I'm more than happy to talk to people and share ideas. One of the challenges is answering an email. It just takes so much time, because people will ask a question, I got to type it out, and it seems selfish of me, but I don't have time to answer every single email that comes in. But it may take me less time to just give you 20 minutes of a conversation, and I'll record it for you and send it to you so you can watch the video, so you don't have to be taking crazy notes. And the reason I want to do a free 20-minute is sometimes people just have some basic questions, and I'm more than happy to help them. I can't take too much time, but I want to take some time and say, hey, if I can spend 20 minutes and answer some basic questions to help you save time, money, anxiety, hassle. There's so many crooks, and there's so many people, nefarious players in the book industry. Sometimes it's like, hey, can we just look at this contract together? So someone's offered me this deal. Should I sign it? I'm like, well, if I were you, I would look at this clause and this clause. I'll do whatever. And because I think I've been really lucky to have worked with a lot of great people. I've learned from so many people. There have been so many writers out there that have been so generous with their time to me. If I can just do a little bit to give back. And so that's why there's that 20 minutes of free. I do charge $100 US an hour. I keep getting told by a bunch of people that I know in the industry that I'm charging way too little. But again, there's two things. The reason I charge money is because I can't just keep doing everything for free. I've got to, make a bit of a living. But more than that, it's people take it a little bit more seriously when they have to pay. But I don't want to charge too much, because I want beginning writers to feel like they're actually getting some value. So, for example, if somebody's like, "Oh, I'd like to hire you and pick your brain for an hour," and I'm like, well, don't do the 20 minutes for free. Make sure you know what you're getting, because I'll be honest with you, you may not like my style. And why waste $100 if you can get it for free? And if I can answer your questions in 20 minutes, great, we both win. You're good. You saved $100. And you maybe saved money because you didn't, potentially you learned from one of my mistakes that I shared with you. So that's kind of fun. So if you go to markleslie.ca /consulting, or if you just click on the link there, you'll see there's a link where you can go check my calendar and you can book a time. And again, I'll talk about anything you want. I'm not really good at coaching people on the craft of writing. So if you're looking for half-hour session where you hope I can critique your work or something like that, I'm probably not going to be that good. I'm not a good developmental editor person. So, but I will talk about the business of writing and publishing until the cats come home.
No, and that's
I'm
awesome.
glad to know that there's something. So
It's okay. I was just going to say he does that so well. We had a consultation with Mark about a year and a half ago when I was considering going wide, and like his, we came prepared with a lot of questions, and we grilled him, and he just answered them point blank. And we left that meeting, and I'm not trying to set a bar here for you, Mark, but I think Mark spent a bit more than 20 minutes with us.
You also bought me some beers, so I owed you.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I'm just saying that. No, you're just that type of person, and you're just so great and to work with and to speak to, and like you answered our questions, and you made us feel good about what we were doing, and we went ahead and did it, and like we appreciated that. So if anyone's seriously considering that, Mark's a great person to talk to. I just want to point out something here before we go any farther. Alexander Marie says, "That's funny. I walked by a Richard stand." And just what you're talking about before, where people are afraid to actually come up and talk to you because they don't want to be preached to, and yes, that's what happened. Absolutely.
Yeah, 30 years of experience selling books, right?
Mm-hmm. It's funny when you're doing book events because a lot of times, I'm thinking I should engage them, and then when I engage them, all of a sudden they look at you like, "Who the heck are you talking to me?" and they walk away. I shouldn't have done that. And then other times I don't engage them, and then I'm thinking, I might have lost a sale there because I didn't tell them. A lot of times they don't realize you're the author; they just think you're the bookseller.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. Yeah. It's really hard to tell. Different people want the engagement, and other people just want to check things out without being bothered.
That's right, and I'm wrong so many times when it comes to that, and then I throw my hands up in the air, and then I don't do it, and that's the wrong attitude too. So it's a tough thing.
But that's the thing, Richard and you and I have been at a bunch of book events together, and so somebody may come up and I go, "Hey, so what do you like to read?" And like, "Oh, I love fantasy. I love epic fantasy." And I was like, "You know what? I don't have anything here for you, but oh my God, you got to go talk to my friend Richard. He'll set you up. You'll be good for a while." And that when you're doing an event like that, if you're familiar with who else is nearby and what they sell. I have one romance book, but if someone's looking for romance, I'm like, "Oh my God, no, you got to go see my friend over there. She's got some great books. You got to check them out." And I learned that from my bookseller days. I'd rather spend time putting the right book in their hands, and they'll probably have a positive memory of me. When I was a bookseller, this used to happen to me all the time. People would come to my bookstore where I worked, where I was a manager, to ask me questions that weren't nothing to do with the bookstore and nothing to do with books because they knew I would give them an honest answer. So get this. I got foot traffic into my bookstore because people wanted to know something about where the best plumbing store was in the mall or whatever it was they were looking for. People came into my store, walked into my bookstore, which foot traffic's important for retail, because of that. And so it's kind of like it's like selling a book today and getting one sale or getting the right rater for life. There's that sort of that weird balance. Yeah, you're paying a lot of money to be there. You want to make sure you make your money back, but you have to. It's this really. I don't know. I'm actually not an extrovert. I'm very much an introvert. I can play the role. I'm an omnivert. I can play the role, but I'm not all that good at it. So I'm not as good, for example, as I've seen you in action, Richard. You're amazing at engaging with people, and I'm just more of I'll just let Barnaby do the.
That's funny. I'm a total introvert myself. Like I do not do well.
You're so good at it.
I don't like going to parties just because I'm the guy who stands in the corner. I'm just not into small talk. But when it comes to my books, I know my books, so I don't mind talking about them.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you're passionate about it, right? Mm-hmm. What about you guys, David and Christie? Are you okay with that chatter and the selling?
No.
I mean, it depends on my mood and the people approaching me too.
Right.
It's tough at first. I remember Dave invited me up to Sudbury to do the Sudbury Graphicon. I guess it was the year before that we did it with you, Mark, and.
Yeah.
I remember standing there and someone said, "Oh, that's an interesting book." They saw the cover of A Trolls and Evil Things. I said, "So what's it about?" And I looked at him blankly like I'd never seen the book before in my life. I didn't know what to say. I had no idea how to explain what my book was about, even though I'm the one who wrote it. So I finally picked it up, turned it around, and gave him the back cover. I said, "Here, read this." And it's very bizarre. when you first do these book events, like I've done so many of them now that it's just natural. And my wife probably just hears this in her sleep all the time. I say the same thing over and over and over again. It just becomes second nature. But at first, it can be very daunting, especially if you're introverted. Like I am introverted, but when it comes to my books, I know my spiel now because I've done so many. It's just that thing. You just got to get out there and do it again and again and again, and all of a sudden it becomes second nature, and you don't think about it anymore.
Are you an actor delivering lines in a role potentially? So you're just playing the role of confident author?
I guess so, because I'm certainly not a confident speaker to people. I know my limits. I know my strengths, and that's not one of them. But when it comes to selling books, I've just done enough events that I'm now comfortable, and I don't mind doing it anymore. Like before, I used to stress over it, just like you used to stress over doing interviews, and now here we're doing podcasts. So
there you go.
As an author, you just got to get out there, and you just got to do it if you want to get yourself known. Because people don't know you, they're not going to come. Hey, tell me about you. They're just not going to do that. So
people buy books from those they know, like, and trust. And the fact that you guys have this show, people get to know you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then they go, oh, they write my kind of thing. I'm going to go check out their books.
No, absolutely. And the word of mouth from other authors and doing shows like this is just it's another thing to get your name out there. And people don't know who Richard A. Stevens is, but if they hear my name enough, they're going to say, who the heck is this guy? Like, why do I always hear about this schmuck? And then some of them might be tempted to actually look me up. So,
yeah, I'm very introverted, and I've got better at it, I think. But I'm still not very confident with the whole kind of in-person interaction. People tell me that I sound very confident, but I never feel confident, And I always find kind of like live interactions quite stressful. I actually find these still quite stressful, actually. Again, I've got better at it, but it's just kind of like something I'm not naturally kind of confident in, I guess.
mm-hmm.
But like I say, Richard, I mean, it's like you have to do it because you have. How else are you going to get your name out there?
Yeah, no one else is going to do it for you. So,
yeah,
unfortunately, I always tell people, I said, I'll pay you $500,000 if you make me $1 million. I have no problem doing that. We'll just split it 50-50. And, I haven't found that person yet, but, so we got a couple more comments coming in here. They haven't steered me wrong yet. And I think they're talking about, probably you and me, Mark, it's Alexander Marie. And then she's saying that, I have 5 new authors I adore on my shelf now because of this show.
Well, that's awesome. Hosts haven't steered her wrong yet.
Oh, okay. All right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you're actually appreciating some of the authors we have on. I guess we'll very much appreciate that. I find it, I believe I can publish a book. You guys make it easy.
You must be talking about Drafted Digital, Patricia. Yes, drafteddigital.com makes it so easy to publish your book. Sorry, I'll stop.
Caroline's saying you wouldn't know it, Dave. You do these so well. You certainly do. And
I didn't guess you were nervous. Yeah.
Well, these coming in hot and heavy now. People might not relate to some genres, but I found that they always relate to people and stories.
Yeah, Wanda, that is so true. They relate to people. I mean, yeah. I've read books that I never thought I would read because the person intrigued me. And I was like, well, I don't read this genre, but I like this person. I like their style. And I'm going to check it out. That's why I think content marketing is a really, really good thing for authors to do. Content meaning you're putting stuff out there. You guys are content marketing with this podcast. So, people are getting to know you and you get to chat and they get to see you as real people. And then if they like what they see, they'll go check out your stuff. And because they go, well, they're entertaining. I bet you their books are entertaining too, or whatever, right? Or they're motivating, or they're inspirational. Or whatever the case may be.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, our time has just flown by. We're almost at the 50-minute mark. So, and we don't want to keep you too long, Mark. We normally on here for 45 minutes, but you do a lot of in-person events. So when's the next one for Mark Leslie?
In person will be going to Vegas. I was just in Maryland, and that was a really fun, quick trip. 10-hour drive down. One day, 10-hour drive back.
That's as a presenter, though, correct?
No, that was I was there on behalf of Drafted Digital. I had a booth and I did a presentation, and then at 20 books, 50K in Vegas in early November, I will be there I'm doing 3 talks. I'm doing one on the main stage and a couple on the other stages as well. So that's going to be a lot of fun because lots of authors, lots of interaction, lots of learning. And then obviously in November we have an in-person event in St. Jacob, and I think I've got another. Oh God, no! This at the end of the month. At the end of the month, I'm going to be in Frightmare in the Falls, Niagara Falls, Canada, horror conference, and I've got a table there. You're not going to be there probably because it's horror themed.
No.
Yeah, so I've got my table there. I'm still bringing the Canadian Mounted because I mean, you know,
Oh, for sure. No,
lots of people love John Hughes. So,
Why not?
and when am I back in Sudbury, Patricia? That's such a good question. The house I own up there is actually has someone living in there, so I don't have an easy way to just go and stay somewhere. I used to be able to stay with my mom there, but I haven't booked anything for Sudbury. But I should look at it because honestly, the Sudbury bookstores and the people in Sudbury are so good to me, so good to me. I did an event with my local library when I was there in the summer, and because I spent most of my summer up north. But oh my God, it's just there's nothing like that hometown love. There really is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And before we go, what's the next thing on the Mark Leslie horizon? Like you did so many things. Like, is it another one of your Lover's Moon sequel? Or
Yeah, so book 6 in my Canadian Werewolf, the humorous urban fantasy adventures. Book 6, Hex and the City. Julie and I are co-authoring that. We're going to be each writing 50,000 words for it in November. We have our editor book for the middle of December for the first pass. Second pass in January goes to the our narrators. We have a female and male narrator. Scott Overton from Sudbury is the voice of Michael Andrews, and that's coming out in March. So that's the next big project for me.
And where can we find your books? Obviously, at markleslie.ca. I know this is a silly question because I know you very well, but people might not. Yeah. You're obviously on Amazon, but you're also published wide. So where can people find your books easily?
You go to markleslie.ca. You'll find links. You can go to books2read.com/markleslie. You'll find links to my books on all the platforms, including a carousel that's free. And I actually shared it in my private chat. I've got a bit.ly link for Halloween, or four stories perfect for Halloween. It's bit.ly/Mark Treats, and you'll be able to download that in EPUB, Mobi, or PDF if you're interested. I always put that out as a treat for people who come trick-or-treating, so the adults who like to read can, hey, just go to this URL. Probably going to do the QR code for them this year. Scan it, and so you can download it for free. It's for sale, but for your viewers, if they want 4 scary tales, I put that together specifically this morning, just to make sure that I had it available for you guys.
No, that's awesome. I got it in the comments now, so people can actually see it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And Patricia said you can stay with her. So.
Oh, awesome! Thank you.
There you go. Yeah.
Be careful, Patricia. I might be taking a skeleton.
Well, we might all, because we don't know who that's addressed to. That I think all 4 of us are coming up to stay with Patricia.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah. And I love bacon, and Mark loves beer, so we're
bacon and beer are just perfect together.
We're a couple of hoseheads, that's for sure. That's another one. You're gonna have to do something with.
Take it off, eh?
Yeah. So anyway, thanks again, Mark, for being on this. We really enjoyed having you. We hope we can have you on here again because you got so much to talk about, and you're such a great guest.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
So next week on Lurking for Legends, we'll be chatting with science fiction author Aaron Frail. One of Aaron's taglines is "Good times and hope for a better future." Comedy is his jam. When not writing, he can be found teaching, podcasting Aaron's horror show, and screaming while playing guitar for the band Spiral. Now, generally people scream when I play guitar, but they're trying to tell me to stop. So we'll see how maybe we can get Aaron to play us a riff or something. So until next week, for Mark, Christie, Dave, and myself, we hope you all have an amazing week. Until we meet again, take good care.
Good night.